Hey guys, Chris here with Agri Stainless, and today we have everything you need to know about your Case, New Holland, and Flexi Coil air cart, and the only way to buy the parts. So stay tuned. So today on the bench here, we have a 50 series air cart lower manifold. So this is the way we give it to growers 90% of the time. So this one is in particular is for a 3-tank poly tank air cart, but we also do them for all the Flexi Coil Case and New Holland line. So that's your 20 series air carts or your John Deere 787s, your 40 series air carts, your 50 series air carts, which was a 2-tank or a 3-tank poly tank, and as well as even up to the 3-tank steel tank 580 bushel carts. So that's like your 3580 Case or your P1070 New Holland. We will ship it to you exactly the way that you see it here, and even more so sometimes. With this lower manifold, it comes to you fully assembled, ready to bolt up. All you have to do is lower your manifold, unbolt it, bolt the new one up, raise it up, and do a few small adjustments. Usually those adjustments are here at your hopper mounts. So that's where we seal to the bottom of our meter housing. And so usually we're just doing adjustments at our pusher bolts here to set the crush on the bottom of our meter box seal. We really don't have to do too much more than that. If you're familiar with these lower manifolds, or if you've done it in the past, they are a bear to put together. And the first time that we ever did one in the shop, it took us 18 hours. Now we've got really good at it. We do have jigs to do it. We do it in a really quick time and we push them out really quickly. So this manifold is fully assembled, ready to install, and it's perfectly true and adjusted, ready for your cart. So it's not out of line. You don't have to worry about meter boxes not sealing or one's sealing and one's not, anything like that. The way that this comes, it comes with new hoses, new hoppers, new selector valves, not just the stainless. The stainless is only half of it, and it is ready to go, even as far as new stainless pins here, alignment pins, that are seized in every time. The reason we do it like this is because 99% of the time, it all happens at once. So when it all happens at once, we don't just have the steel rotting out on your old manifold. Typically growers will call and say, I got some rust or some corrosion coming on my lower manifold. They might see some of the bends wearing out here in the back side of the manifold or in the front side if it's a toe between, or maybe he's noticing a lot of air loss. Now, the reason that can become somewhat of a problem is because we have everything. When I say everything happens at once, it usually all wears out at the same time. And by that I mean every part of this lower manifold sees the same amount of fertilizer, it sees the same amount of seed, and it all is kind of going to happen at once. So we'll start with the top hoppers here. So in the top here, it uses this poly hopper. This poly hopper is very good. It doesn't wear out, anything like that. What will happen with this poly hopper is it's surrounded by steel. So in here, around and between each hopper is a steel bar on a factory manifold. Now with that, it'll hold fertilizer underneath here, and it'll rot and corrode, and it'll start to rust jack. And when it rust jacks, it'll start to bow the hopper in on the sides, and on the front and rear, it'll start to bow the hopper in. Now rust jacking is a term we use very commonly when we're replacing with stainless, but it is a force that is so powerful and it will absolutely cripple anything. And so with these hoppers, we stand no chance, but once we use them, it's not the fault of the hopper, it's the fault of the part that is surrounding it. So once we replace them with stainless and we seal them, there's no more fertilizer getting in here, there's no more bowing, and this is a part that's going to last a very, very, very long time. Now we also see this with our single and double chute selector valves. So here you see a factory selector valve for these air carts, and this is going to be in the position underneath the second tank. You'll also see one, a slightly different one, underneath the front tank on a toe behind or a rear tank on a toe between. And what this selector valve does is it selects for products dropping in from, in this case, the center tank, and you can select whether you're putting it into the top chute or into the bottom chute. If you were to talk to growers, or maybe you've experienced it yourself, these valves, guys will have a bad taste in their mouth about them. Now the reason they do, it's not the fault of the valve. These valves are very crucial. We don't want to get rid of them. on a double chute air cart. On a double chute air cart, we always want to keep these intact so we can change, reutilize, move product from tank to tank and have ultimate variability. The problem with these valves is not actually the valves themselves. These valves are a heavy fiberglass resin injection mold that is sealed together in two separate halves, and they're supported by some clamps on the front and rear. And it's actually a high wearing part, and it lasts a very very long time. The problem of which they fail is not the fault of the part, but that it is surrounding a steel pipe. So in here, there's a steel pipe from either a back section or our mid section. We call it for short. The pipe will insert into this manifold, into this rib here, and it's surrounding a steel pipe. Now I can't clean in there. So the steel pipe is gonna rust jack, it's gonna corrode, and it's gonna split this valve. So when I'm looking at these air carts, I'm always looking underneath. And I'm gonna go underneath the bottom of the manifold and look up at the bottom of this valve. Now when you look at the bottom of this valve, this seam here is very common to let go. And you'll see this seam split open and it'll be a major air leak. I've seen these as wide as about 1/2 inch wide. Now that's the cause of, again, not the valve failing, but of the steel that it is surrounding. A lot of times growers will come to their cart. I've even had guys call me, I need like 80 hose clamps for my lower manifold here. Well, they come to the cart in the spring, all of the hose clamps are broken, or a bunch of them are. And again, it's not the hose clamp's fault, but it's trying to hold on to this valve, which is being expanded by the rust, a force that is just so great. This is not a common to fail part. It is not the fault of this part. It is the fault of the steel manifold. So once we replace this in our new lower manifold, it's going to last, like guys are getting like 30, 40, 50,000 acres. Ultimately, it depends on your product rates, your wind speeds, and the types of products you're using, but they're getting a very long time, and they're not failing anymore, they're not splitting. With this, it pains me to say, but we've seen it in the past, and that's why we're trying to warn guys about it. Guys will see the valve fail, they don't know why, but they need to replace it for the spring because they've got a major air leak now. And air leaks and air seeders don't get along. We also might have the steel parts rusted out. We also might have these hoses dry rotted if we were taking this all apart and we're not reusing the hoses. They're 10, 12, 13 years old, 15 years old, whatever the case may be. They're dry rotted and gonna crack, so putting new hoses on if they're not already cracked or been replaced before. The seals on the front are split, our pins are seized in position. These nuts are usually seized solid to the lower manifold. And so it's all seeing the same amount of fertilizer and it's all gonna happen at the same time. So when we're looking at these air carts, what I'm trying to get growers to do or stay conscious of to do their pre-inspection before they go seed them is to go underneath the manifold, look at the valves. Do we have broken hose clamps? Do we have split valves? Do we have hoppers that are blowing out of sight? And do we have any air leaks when we run the fan? And what can we do to fix them? And so the reason we ship this way, 99.5% out of the time, we can sell all the stainless parts, you can buy them singularly too, but we never do it. And it's not by our choice, it's by the grower's choice. When we have a look and a deep look at the manifold, it's 99% of the time it's all the same. And so this saves you a whole bunch of time, whether it's you installing it and putting the parts together, whether it's the dealer putting the parts together, typically a higher labor rate for highly trained technicians, or you gotta pay your hired guy to do it. It is a bear to do. The first time you do it, it is a mission. With this lower manifold, it comes fully assembled, ready to bolt up, ready to install. We're going to simply unbolt at the top of the manifold here. Now there's these triangle shaped mounts at the manifold here that we like to keep in place. So there's a threaded rod that goes through this triangle shaped mount, and some growers will like to take it off there. We strongly suggest not to because we lose some of the factory adjustments. Now, if the manifold sealed to the meter boxes before, it's going to seal again. This is a factory replacement part. It's not indifferent. It's not different in any way. But with these triangle shaped mounts here, we just want to unbolt them. If the mount does need to be replaced or it's heavily corroded or bent or tweaked or something, we have those in stock too. Absolutely, we'll throw them in. Now, if we need to unbolt this lower manifold, great. So we lower the manifold typically onto a roller cart or a pallet jack. And we have two sets of arms. So we have one arm that drops the manifold down, then we have a second reaction arm that is responsible for taking the manifold out to the side so it's out of the way and we can service the meter boxes. Now, we usually take off the second reaction arm that swings the manifold out of the way so that the lower manifold drops right to the bottom. It drops straight down, and you can drop it right onto the ground or onto a couple of pallets or onto a nice roller cart or jack system, whatever you feel is best. We can slide the old manifold out, slide the new manifold in, put our carrier mounts back up to the lower manifold. Now these bolts that bolt through here are extremely hard to service because you can't get the bolts in from the bottom. So what we do is we send every order with a 9-inch long Allen-headed T-handle that we push through the bottom to put the bolts in and to hold the head of the bolt. We tighten up all the nuts on the top side, and we raise our manifold, do our small adjustments here. I usually do these with an air cart fan running. Once I get them set to where I think they need to be, then I'll fire up the air cart, run the fan wide open, and be feeling around here for any air leaks. And then I'm going to adjust these pusher bolts here by loosening off my 2 bolts on either side. Then my hopper mount becomes adjustable, and then I can use these pusher bolts to set the pitch or raise one side higher than the other and set the crush evenly all the way around the bottom of the meter housing so that it seals tight. I'll adjust those bolts until I feel that air leak is now gone, and I can shut the cart down and we're good to go. So that is how easy it is to install. This takes it from being a 3-day job, a 4-day job, seen guys take up to a week if they're trying to reuse parts or take it all apart, put it back together, and they lose bolts or whatever the case is. And now it turns it into a morning job. You take the manifold, you bring it to the cart, you're done by noon. Start at 8 o'clock, you're done by noon easily. It's not a full day endeavor. So now we'll talk a little bit about our meter housings here. So this is your 50 series, 40 series metering housing. We also have the 20 series available. These are ready to go always as well. Now, we've done an extensive amount of updates to these meter housings to take away all the pain points that guys have with the factory ones. We used to run one of these carts ourselves, and there's a lot of pain points that a guy will notice and everybody will relate to and feel the same amount of pain. So with these meter housings, if we built them the same, exactly how they were before in stainless, you'd still have a lot of the common issues that drive guys nuts, and you would still not enjoy running this air cart. And so with this meter housing here, we've updated quite a few things. For example, our latches. So before we had these steel small latches, now we have nice big stainless latches that don't hurt your fingers on cold mornings when you're running it and break your fingers when they seize badly. We have a removable clean out plate here, inspection cover here, and then we have the bottom seal, which is a factory bottom seal, but it is not going to come off anymore. Typically before, this seal would come off every single year. You'd go down to the local dealer, they'll sell you a $40 bottle or $60 bottle of Gorilla Glue, or they call it Loctite, but it's more or less super glue. And this is coming off the next year. So with these ones, you can push, you can give as much as you got on these seals, and they will not come off. But we still utilize the factory seal. Now the reason we utilize the factory seal is because this hopper mount is designed, or this hopper here is designed to fit in that seal. So there is other ones out there that are using just a foam weather stripping or something like that. And they will not seal forever. Sometimes not ever. But we need to use the factory seal because it is designed to run with this hopper. So in this seal here is a recessed portion of this seal that this hopper mount fits in perfectly. And this is going to seal the manifold to the bottom of the meter box every time without fail. So this is what is required because we are always running these factory hoppers. So with this seal, it is now not going to come off. It is not the fault of the seal, it was the fault of the adhesion. And it was also glued to paint or glued to aluminum, which is almost impossible to glue anything to. So this is a big fix. The latch is being fixed, the bottom seal now being fixed. We also have the agitator shaft. Now with the agitator shaft here, we have taken away the grease nipple here, so there is no more greasable point. These were very common for seizing up for a couple of reasons. There was a steel shaft inside of an aluminum housing. We don't want that. That is galvanic corrosion, which is caused by dissimilar metals reacting with each other. We don't want that. So we can have corrosion there and causing the shaft to bind up, or it was also greasable, so we would grease it once a year or a couple times a year, and the fertilizer and product would stick to it, and that causes everything to turn into like a concrete-like compound and seize the shaft up. So you were kind of darned if you did grease it and darned if you didn't. Either way, it was going to seize up. So now with this stainless shaft inside a stainless housing, we use a product called Duralon, which is a high wearing bushing set at a tight tolerance. So the agitator shaft will stay free for the rest of its life. Now, we also fix a few more things. So flipping this meter housing over now and opening it up, we have a baffle plate here that no longer utilizes the over-center latches that are between the baffle plate and our air plenum. So with this baffle plate here, it has 3 stainless locking tabs, and there's no more plastic over-center latches that are common to break and drive you nuts, and you're always worried to change them, or you're always worried to touch them even. And so this one just slides in and out, pulls out of position, and slides into position. Snaps in place, and it's never going to come out. You never have to worry about it. There's no moving or breaking parts to break. You don't have to worry about that. Latches or screws or anything that's hard to use. Everything's toolless. Now the biggest part of this metering housing, which is the biggest fix, is this part right here. So this is a wear strip, and this is responsible for being the part of which your meter rollers meter over. Now, the wear strip needs to set a perfect tolerance between it and the meter roller, and it needs to be a very consistent tolerance. Now, in the factory meter housings, they had an aluminum meter strip, wear strip, with a piece of Teflon plastic on top. It was screwed from the top side here. Pull this out for reference. It was screwed from the top side here, and between the screws that were in the wear strip, the wear strip would bow like crazy. It would bow between all the screws, and you could never keep it flat or true and setting a good tolerance to the meter roller. So then growers would start to have problems. When you have problems, usually the problem is, hey, I lift my drill out of the ground and I'm siphoning product when the fan is on. I stop the tractor and I can hear product coming out of my shanks. Usually the first ones to notice is fine crops like grass seed or canola. Any small crops are the first ones to notice. Once we're in bigger crops, bigger seeds, then we really have a problem. But it is usually the first thing to check is this wear strip for warpage. So if we start to have warpage going on, we can change our wear strip, and you can change it every year for a couple $100. But this wear strip is also made out of a heavy product called Duralon, and it will never warp. It'll never bow, and it'll always stay true, and it will never wear out. And so this product here is going to set a tight tolerance to your meter roller at all times and be problem-free for the rest of your life. That is our fixes on our meter housing. So we've talked about the bottom seal that now doesn't come off, our agitator shaft that doesn't seize, our latches that no longer break our fingers, and our baffle plate that no longer we have to worry about taking in and out, and our wear strip that bows. So if we had kept this meter the same and just built it in stainless, sure, we would fix the corrosion factors, but you still dislike using it, and you're still putting latch kits and seals and wear strips into this meter housing, and it's still a bear to use. So now this is the meter housing that is the last one you'll own on your farm, the last one you'll install, and you don't ever have to worry about it again. And you can utilize this cart for fertilizer or seed, and you don't have to worry about corrosion. So that's what we're aiming to do, is a one-piece product that you never have to worry about again, and it's you're not throwing money at it every single year. So thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to go and check out the website. It asks you all the questions you need to be asked for your air cart. You simply click the logo, which is the brand of your air cart, whether it be Case, Flexi Coil, New Holland, or any of the others, Seedmaster, or Morris, or John Deere, whatever you have, it's on there. And then you can select the product you want and get it configured to your air cart specifically, and it'll ask you all the questions to do that and build you a custom setup for your air seeder alone. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us or one of our dealers. If we don't have a dealer near you, there's probably one coming, or you can speak to us directly. By all means, absolutely. Be sure to follow us and like this video and follow along for more. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Have a great day.